Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, Digital Media Relations Manager here in Chesterfield. I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, this year we will be working our way through the 5 magisterial districts, as I like to do each, the beginning portion roughly of each year. And I'm very glad to start with our board chair from the Bermuda District, Mr. Jim Ingle. Mr. Ingle, how are you doing, sir? Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Doing good, Brad. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming. Appreciate the time. Obviously, it's a very important time. I always like to start with a little bit of an intro. Obviously, for you, I don't think I could start anywhere else than asking about the fact that you are the chair of the board. I can't imagine, all the work that you put into to get to that place and all the time that you spent. What did it mean to you then to be elected to be the chair of the board, and what was that moment like when it happened that evening?
Well, first of all, it was humbling, and I was honored to be chosen by my fellow board members to be the chair for this year.
Right.
I definitely thank them for their votes, and I also wanted to thank God, which I did during that meeting as well, for the opportunity that I think he played a hand in, as well as the citizens, in allowing me to be in this role as a board member and now as chair of the Chesterfield County Board of Supervisors. Look forward to a great year. We have a lot of things that have happened recently that were great for the county in past years, and we look forward to a good year this year as well. Right.
You're looking forward to all the extra stuff you have to do as chair. It feels like there's a lot on that plate, right?
There's a little bit more to do than there is as a standard board member.
Right.
But we'll get through it.
Yep.
Every other chair is taking care of those all of the extra responsibilities that come with the position. And I'm sure that we'll get through this year as well. But there is definitely more meetings and a lot more paperwork and a lot more signatures that have to be done.
Yeah, good deal. Well, I always like to start kind of broad and then work sort of down from that. So let's start with some sort of larger county topics. Obviously, we're right here at the start of the budget process as we record here today. The proposal will come next month, and then we'll have all the various community meetings and things that go along with that process. I'm curious, though, to get your point of view on what things you think will be sort of key as we work through this budget cycle.
Well, first, we've sent out most of the real estate assessments, and they came in at approximately 5.1% increase. So most of that has gone out. Hopefully, everybody's had a chance to see that. I do want to give a few reminders. Last year, we did pass on the personal property side a decrease from $360 to $335 per 100 on the personal property. So that was vehicles were going up for some odd reason during COVID. They did things that broke the supply and demand curve in economics, which is abnormal, but we've seen normalcy come to that. So if you owned your car last year, you own it this year, based on that cut, you will actually pay less in taxes on your car this year than you did last year. So I think that's important for people to note. And then we also did announce that was included with the real estate assessment announcements that we were doing a 5% rebate from this year's first half of the year, which is equivalent to a 2.5% for the year, and a rebate on their real estate taxes for this year. Some things of note on the real estate side. I know last year, 80% for many years, 80% of that total tax base on the real estate side has come from residential and 20% from commercial. This year, the things that did not exist last year that are now in place this year have changed that ratio for this past year to 77-23. So that's going in the right direction, and that change from 77-23 for the last year has actually brought the ratio down to about 79.4 versus 20.6. So although it's just a little over 0.5%, it's going in the right direction. And the good news is most of the large announcements that we've already made haven't come online yet. I know we'll talk about some of them later on in the podcast, but it's exciting to know that we're going to see that ratio, at least on the new stuff coming in, going in the right direction, which will help us overall over time to be able to take some of that burden off of our residential.
Right.
So I'm really excited about that. We do look to put about $14 million more into schools this year, approximately, and then give pay raises of about 3% to our employees. We need to make sure that we continue to take care of our employees as we have the last few years. Prior to that, we had a lot of employees that were here, learned what they were doing, and moved on to another opportunity after we spent all the money to train them to go somewhere else. So making sure that we pay our people a competitive wage.
Yeah, that retention is extremely
important. To retain
them
actually saves taxpayer money over the years, because Kevin Carroll talks about a 10-year period where the police department hired 600 police officers for a 550-person department. When you have that many people come through in 10 years, and it costs about $100,000 to train each of them, it's much better to make sure they're compensated fairly and keep them than it is to turn them over. So we've put a huge emphasis on making sure that we take care of all of our employees this year. But we also have to be mindful of our citizens and that burden that it puts on them as their assessments go up. If the rate was to stay the same, they would have an increased tax burden on them. And it is imperative that we do everything we can to be as efficient as possible to make sure that we have the services that our citizens have come to expect, but do it in a way that keeps the least amount of burden on our citizens. So not sure what that's going to look like when we're all said and done, but I can tell you that is the goal.
Right. Now, obviously, when we go from the county sort of stuff to a little bit more specifically about your district, one of the fun things about this is that I get to ask you a question that is both in your district and very much county-wide. The Commonwealth Fusion announcement. That thing, it could mean so many different things, not just for Chesterfield, but for Virginia, for everybody, in a variety of different directions. And there's so much I know that it goes into that. Why do you feel like that this project is so transformational, and how proud are you to have, not just in Chesterfield, but right there in your backyard?
Well, this is probably one of the biggest announcements that's come out in recent history. I don't know how I thought we would ever top Lego. And I know Lego is we'll talk about again in a minute, but I know that is such a household word.
Right.
But what Commonwealth Fusion Systems is doing will truly change the world. This is a world changer.
Right.
Their magnet technology has allowed them to advance the process to the point where they're going to be able to, in what they make with the magnets is a zero gravity for the interaction of their fuels that will produce electricity, helium, and a neutron.
Yeah.
So with that, it's safe.
Yeah.
If there was anything they needed to do to stop the process, all they have to do is introduce air. Just put oxygen in, and this process stops immediately. There's that's it.
Yeah.
It's done.
Right.
All of that comes in with fuel for 20 to 30 years on one tractor trailer. And their first plant that they're looking to put in here in Chesterfield County will produce 400 megawatts of power, which is approximately 150,000 houses.
Yeah.
So.
And when you think about sort of you just extrapolate that out, the possibilities there are just endless. And what I love about this announcement is, like, with all love and respect to Lego, we know what a Lego is, right? We step on them, right? We know how incredibly well built they are, right? But this, the possibilities here are truly, just truly endless. And I can't imagine what it was like when this whole thing was coming together. And certainly, like I said, that it was in your district. What was it when all this was coming together? How did that feel to see it all sort of come to fruition the way it has?
When they first sat down in a room with me and explained to me what the process was and they generate power,
right?
I was amazed.
I bet.
Really, it took me a minute just to take in what they had just told me.
Yep.
I know the word nuclear scares a lot of people.
Right.
And quite frankly, nuclear was not a word that was ever used to surround this project until somebody in the news, after it was announced, brought it up.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I had to go look up the definition of nuclear to say, is this really nuclear?
Right.
And the answer is yes, it is.
Yeah, from a technical standpoint,
a huge difference between fission,
and
which
fusion,
is splitting of atoms, and the fusion, which is putting them together. In the fusion side, although both of them generate power, green and relatively inexpensive over time, the fusion side is significantly less controversial because you don't have any possibility of some kind of a meltdown.
Yeah, no fallout, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
I think they've come a long way on fission as well.
Right.
But fusion is definitely 100% safe.
Yeah.
And just being able to be a part of that, being so close to home, I believe this is going to bring scientists in from around the world.
Absolutely.
And to have them here in my own backyard, I think is going to be really exciting.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of Lego, we've talked about it a couple of times, and obviously I know that is I mentioned, that we all know how well constructed they are, and the idea that some of them are going to be constructed here soon is great. Can we give folks an update on that front of how that project is coming together and how close we are to putting some bricks out there with that came right from here in Chesterfield?
Well, we may actually be able to put some bricks out a little faster than people think.
Oh,
because what many people probably don't know is Lego does have a facility already open and operating to package some of their Lego different models that they put out here in Chesterfield County, and that's already taken place.
Awesome.
In as the new plant opens, probably around the spring of 27, we should see Legos being produced here, but we may see them before that because the current plant they have has some equipment in there, and they're going to start teaching how to use it there to be ready to go when the plant opens. So hopefully even before the spring of 27, we'll have Chesterfield County produce Legos.
That's awesome.
And, of course, they fit all Legos that are produced anywhere ever. So if you take a Chesterfield Lego and a 1956 Lego and you put them together, they will lock together.
That's right.
So
build whatever you want.
That is the magic of what Lego does. And we're really excited to be able to have that stamp of Chesterfield County on something that's coming out of a Lego plant.
And we also know that, in this day and age, to have those types of jobs right here at home, to have, Dr. Casey talks a lot about, being able to not just work, but to live and to play and to do all the things in the same community. I know is a central focus for you guys as on the board. In terms of some of the other things that are sort of maybe for folks in your district who are interested, let's talk a little bit about transportation. There are always projects, I think, that people are interested in. Folks are curious about, something they've heard or something they've seen. Maybe they've seen some work starting and they're curious when it might end. I think the two that might be maybe at the top of their list are Willis Road and the widening of 95 that VDOT's doing between 10 and 288. What can you tell us about both of those sort of projects or issues, so to speak? What's the latest on those fronts?
Well, Willis Road interchange is going to be very important. The good news with the Willis Road interchange is that we do have the old flea market. It's already started to redevelop, which will be instrumental for that area of the county, as well as Commonwealth Fusion coming in and other opportunities in that area. So being able to get traffic on and off of 95 on an interchange that was designed many years ago and is tremendously out of date will be a huge step for Chesterfield County. We do not have that project funded yet, but we are working at the federal level with Jennifer McClellan, at the state level with Dolores McQuinn, and they are working diligently to try to help us to come up with the funding, because the funding for that is about $85 million, and unfortunately a good portion of that is purchasing land that's developed right up to the interstate. That is necessary to be able to make the interchange function better. And so we're going to have a relocation of the McDonald's, for instance, and some of the other other businesses in that area will have to either close and relocate or occupy a different footprint to stay in place. So we look forward to all of that taking place as quickly as we can. Definitely thankful for our federal and state partners in that. And I can tell you that we need it quickly so that we can continue to be able to bring more positive growth to that area. And again, that is a entryway to a lot of our industry that's coming in, Commonwealth Fusions, as we just talked about, and others, and then also to the citizens on the Route 1 corridor, which need to see, and really for over 20 years have been waiting for some revitalization that's now actually starting to take place over there.
Right. And then that widening project on 95 between 210 and 288, what's the sort of, do we have a time frame for maybe when that one might wrap up?
That one is scheduled to wrap up, I believe, at the end of 26.
Okay.
And that won't be too soon, I can tell you, because if you're going from 10 to 95, it's a bottleneck right there.
Right.
And if you're going from 288 south, whether it's to 10 or somewhere south of there, that's also a bottleneck. And to be honest with you, during this construction period, which is very frustrating, it's tight, especially if you're coming off of 288 to go south on 95. It's extremely tight right there. So we do ask you to give a little bit of patience and understanding to those that are working on that area. We'll get that cleaned up as fast as we possibly can, but that'll take a huge pinch point for both sides, 10 to 95 north and 288 to 95 south. That'll take those pinch points out, and that's been long overdue and need. So I'll be really excited when that opens up.
Yeah. All right. So in terms of, the bond referendum happens, there's, obviously all kinds of projects that are coming over these next however many years. And it feels like, we made a joke earlier about, all the different things that the chair gets to do. There are going to be a whole lot of these, ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and things that just keep popping up. I just want to, before we wrap up too much, I want to get a quick sort of check in on some of the capital updates in your district, obviously with Bensley, and there are other projects I know that are coming online, all the various, public safety pieces of the puzzle that are fitting together down there. Can you give us an update on some of those things and kind of where things stand on those projects?
Well, Bensley, the old school has already been demolished, and they are working on site work now. I look forward, I believe, to seeing the school open in the fall of 26.
Okay.
And I think that'll be wonderful for the kids in that area.
Yeah.
We also have the Enon Library that's fully funded and going through the process right now. We've met with citizens on how to put the Enon flavor on what we're looking at, which is a similar building structure to the Midlothian Library. So if you want to have an idea, big picture of what the library would be like, you can head on over to the Midlothian Library, which is actually a really nice library that's doing well.
Yeah.
And we just will have a different flavor, but a similar feel.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good deal.
We also have the replacement of the Fire Station 1 in Chester, which is the oldest fire station in the county, and it's definitely pigeonholed into a spot that's not great to get in and out of. So we look forward to getting that opened up right on the Fall Line Trail. It'll be pretty much the center of the county on the Fall Line Trail. So we plan to put some kind of ATV type rescue vehicle in at that location as well, in a separate, smaller building in the back, to be able to respond to any calls that are actually on the trail faster. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we have the police station in Chester that's going. We're working on purchasing the new property for that now, and working through what that will look like. But it'll actually be a flagship station when it opens up for the police department. So
absolutely,
got a lot going on in the district.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll wrap up on this one. I'm going to ask all of five of you the same question, so that your four colleagues will get it too as well. But what are some of the challenges that you see facing Chesterfield as a whole, and then maybe your district specifically as we go into the deeper into 2025?
Well, we always have infrastructure that we can do. We talked a little bit about Willis Road and the 95, but every district has a road or two, or more, that could use some love, to say the least. And then we also have a lot of challenges, honestly, with the way people drive on those roads.
Fair.
So some of the things that we are doing to address those concerns, speed cameras in the school zones.
Right.
I know that people think we're just trying to raise revenue. I don't want to raise a penny. I just want to keep our kids safe in the school zones, really everywhere, but especially in the school zones. And to be honest with you, I hope that we're able to work something out to get them on buses as well, so that if the stop arm is out and somebody passes the bus, we'll be able to curb that as well, because if a child was to go past the front of the bus, someone's coming past that stop arm and can't see them coming, that could be very detrimental. So
absolutely.
I do think that those are two things that we're doing to help do something with traffic. We're also working through a process to see if we can implement some speed cushions. We've had many people ask about speed bumps over the years, and they really are not ideal. VDOT doesn't like them.
Right.
Quite frankly, our fire and EMS don't like them either, because it could slow an ambulance down, and that those seconds could make a huge difference for them. But we're looking at an opportunity to do something with speed tables, and that may allow fire and EMS as well as plow trucks.
Good point.
To not take them out. That's the other thing for VDOT. The plow truck, when snows and you can't see the speed bump, and you take out a blade and the speed bump, that's pretty costly, and it takes equipment that we need to be doing the job off the road. So those have been challenges that we're trying to overcome with the speed cushion study that we hope to have a few implemented in hopefully this year.
Cool.
We also really have a housing shortage in the county, and I know many people would say that's crazy. As much as we built in this county, how can we have a housing shortage? But we still do. You can tell because the values of property, even though it's up 5.1%, is still up more than the average 3 to 4% that we would expect in typical years over a long period of time.
Right.
So we still are out of balance on that, and the biggest challenge is going to be how do we bring in those units in a way that doesn't overload infrastructure. But something that I don't think our citizens know that I think is important for them to understand is they think that what we brought in over the last few years has completely overloaded our schools. But from 2019 to today, there's only 482 more students in our school system than there was in 2019 in K through 12. That is 0.75 of 1% is the growth of our students since 2019. And I use that year, number one, because it was pre-COVID. So it's because there was a little bit of drop and then come back up as those students left the school system and came back into the school system. So it gives enough time for all of that to float out. And number two, that was the year I was elected. So so I like to use that year as my benchmark. Right. And interestingly enough, in my district, I have 325 less students today than I did when I was elected in 2019. And this year, we had 2 more students total in my district in the school system. And in the county, the whole county system, we only had 184 total new students this year. So when we tell people that the apartments and the units that, in the most part, we're bringing on, that they don't bring students, people don't believe us. They say, well, we just see all the kids. Well, some of the different areas you can live in, quite frankly, a trailer park for about 100 units, it brings in about 100 students. For a residential neighborhood, for 100 units, it brings in about 29 students. For the apartments that we have going in right now, not the older ones that have a lot of 3 and 4 bedroom units. But what we've been approving, and it's been coming on with 1 and 2 bedroom units, we're only seeing somewhere around 10-ish students per 100 apartments, which is not overloading the system, as you can tell with the overall number. So I think that we still have challenges, though, in the county with certain areas that did bring in more family-oriented product, like some areas of Midlothian and the Matoka District. And that is why we have bond referendums out there to bring in some new schools that will take care of that extra capacity that's out there. So even though we're not bringing in a ton of new students prior to 2020, unfortunately, the Board of Supervisors and the school board weren't working as well together as they could have. And there wasn't a good plan to make up the infrastructure they were already behind. And that's what really, we're not bringing in a ton of new students. That's not why we're building these schools. We're building these schools because we were already behind and we needed to get caught up. So I think it's important for our citizens to understand that we understand why they're a little bit suspicious, because we did allow it to get behind. But really, it's not about getting ahead. It's about getting caught up.
Yeah, good deal. Well, Mr. Ingle, thank you very much for coming on the podcast again. I very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate your time, and we'll definitely be talking to you down the road.
Thank you, Brad.
All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia, all one word. And on Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that your shows are sold. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating or review, we greatly appreciate it. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website at Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make a suggestion, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That is Comcast Channel 98, Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent Media Services for all they do. And my thanks to you for joining us today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care.
From blogs to podcasts. And I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again.
Weekly video segments and newsletters.
Social media, the latest community news.
And this is your Chesterfield News Minute for September 19th.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.